What up, what up? Today I'm going to be talking about how to challenge yourself and how you can commit to things or, make change like habits and stuff, right? And I think that the way that I'll do this is to go through, as Quang suggested, um, my yearly challenges that I've done up to this point, and then we'll kind of discuss, the how they went, any difficulties or successes that I had through it, right? The first one was in 2022, and this was not, cranking to porn, right? Was the 2022 challenge. And I was thinking, oh, yeah, this first one, the idea was, oh, well, life is, I want to challenge and see something, if I can do something difficult or whatever. This is the only challenge that I've actually kept. The other challenges, after the year, I then go back, right? But this one is also the easiest. Because as, any degenerate teenager kind of these days with access to technology, I was, watching things of that nature semi frequently. And not doing that one was pretty. I would say that was the easiest because it wasn't it I think a lot of people have issues with porn because they're too soft on themselves. And so I think that that's probably my first point in how you grow the indomitable human spirit is by telling people, right? Because when I started this challenge, or, maybe in late 2021 when I was thinking about it, I texted my buddies and I was like, oh, I'm finna do this. And so the act of telling them that I'm going to do it, I think is strong enough to make, like, it depends on what you have going on or what challenge you're doing or whatever. But oftentimes, at least for me, the pressure to want to do something or not do something, depending on what your, challenge is less than the pressure of lying to these people. Because I really, that is one thing that, like, really bothers me is when I lie to people. Um, so it was kind of easy to then, like, use that for my benefit, right? Is that I can tell people that I'm going to do something, and then I say that, and then I have to. So by making this commitment, not just to myself, because I think a lot of times when people want to make change, you make the change, you say, oh, I'm going to start doing this. But if you don't tell anybody else about it, it's real easy to just be like, maybe not today or whatever, and then now you failed. So that was my first one, and it was definitely the easiest. Yeah, I'd say it's the easiest. Number two was in 2023. I did cold showers. And so cold showers, now, albeit this one I failed a, a handful of times because of and also, there's still a desire to do these things when you're like, when you've got this challenge, right? It's not like it's just, you're kind of done forever and it's whatever. But I think that it gets easier for sure, but the cold shower, like, I think this is one where my mind is probably not all the way there. Like, there was a handful of times where I was at Taya's house, we were like at the pool or something, and her parents' shower does not get cold, right? And so it was, I'd take the warm shower or whatever, but I'd definitely sit in there for a while. Like, I was kind of taking advantage of the fact that I had a warm shower. I probably took, a handful of them that year. And I would definitely say that was when those lines started to blur of, like, oh, well, technically then I have to, and then whatever. Like, then, I was kind of taking my time. It was pretty easy to slip there when the issue wasn't directly against the rules. Like, I never said, like, surely I'm going to take a shower anyway. But I never said, if I had to take a warm shower, I'd have to be quick or something like this. Like, it was pretty easy to kind of get into that mindset. But the cold showers, they were definitely not fun, man. That was, it was hard, but that was another one. Was like, oh, I'm gonna do it, and then the cold showers were, 15 minutes a day. I am pretty thorough in the shower. Like, I just, I feel like I'm always dirty, so I got to make sure I'm, like, washing everything like 3 or 4 times. And so I'd be in there for a while, and man, it was cold. I was shivering, but I'd say the cold showers were not that bad. That was just kind of like a natural progression of my previous year challenge. I was like, well, I'll just do another challenge. Now in 2023, I had a second kind of, like, I wouldn't call it a challenge per se, but it was another big switch in my day to day, like how I dealt with self control and things like this. Was that I had been smoking, and then I was kind of having this issue with, like, a lot of people in the Christian faith there's a lot of very mixed opinions on what you can do or what you can't do, or, if you can do something, what's the acceptable, like, setting or amount, or what's the relationship you have with these substances and whatever. And so I'd been smoking for, maybe a little less than a year or something, but I was doing it pretty often, man. I was really big into it. And it became this thing where, like, I had this great turmoil in my head about, whether or not this is an acceptable thing to be doing. And I think that's another thing, like, if you're convicted to stop doing something or to start doing something, these whatever discipline challenge type things, I reckon that you should, right? If you are thinking maybe, then it's probably correct. But there was a lot of, kind of people in the space and, like, the forward thinking, like, ideas in the Christian faith about, oh, can you smoke or whatever. And I never really got a good answer that I was happy with. I never got an answer. It was like, no, you can't because of XYZ. It was not satisfying. I don't think that there were very good answers. But for me, it was definitely like that's a really dangerous thing about weed that people don't talk about, is that it's not chemically addictive. But anything can be addictive, and I'm going to get to this also later on in the video. Anything can be addictive, but anything can also not be addictive. It depends on your personality and what you're using it for, right? So, like, I got into smoking a lot more, like, right kind of when my grandpa died. And I think that it was kind of like it's very easy to use it to cover up, like, boredom, or, you're not going to be as, stressing about things and stuff like that. And a really dangerous part about it is because it's not chemically addictive, you can kind of use it pretty frequently. And it's not some bad, like, alcohol where you're going to have a hangover or other things like this. Like, you kind of can just smoke whenever, and it's not going to be a big deal. And so then you get to this issue where it's like, I'm cool to watch a movie, or I'm cool to play a video game, or I'm cool to go to the grocery store or whatever. But wouldn't it be more fun if I was high? And because of that issue, well, now if you're not high, then nothing, like, that was the problem arose when I was like, oh, well, I'm cool to do my homework, but I can kind of, like, turn off the part of my body that doesn't like stuff, like, let's say that you're running and you kind of feel that pain, your muscles are getting sore or whatever. But a little video game character, I mean, you can make your guy in GTA run for as long as you want because you're not really connected to that person in a sense. And that was how I'd feel, is like, well, I could do my homework, but if I'm doing the homework, I've got to have the discipline to sit there and be doing it. Whereas if I'm high doing my homework, I can get my homework done, but I'm kind of detached from my body, where, like, I'm just making my body do it, and I'm not really having to sit through and experience that. Same thing with, like, lifting. Like, yeah, I could lift sober, but I'll get a better pump if I'm high. And this is, it really just takes over like that. So I gave that up. But that was like, I was having this issue with, should I be doing it? And then I had a dream where God kind of was saying, like, it's maybe, it's not inherently the most evil thing on the planet, but is this what I was putting above everything? Like, is God not sufficient for me? And is the rest of my life not sufficient, where I have to then go make it better by smoking? It was like, and so I did quit. That was in, like, maybe July or something of that 2023. But that wasn't really an active challenge, more so like just one day I woke up and I was like, I'm good. So I would say that was a similar experience to quitting or changing a habit or gaining a habit or things like this, but it didn't come from the same place of, like, wanting a challenge or wanting to make a change or wanting to conquer something. It was just like, I just don't really, like, want to anymore. And so that was how I changed that. I finished out the year with the cold showers. It was fine. I really didn't have an issue with either of those. And I will like I never really wanted to smoke again, but around people, I think that it's much easier to have that temptation. And that's a big thing too, is that if you're around people that are doing something that you want to do, then it's and you're, not letting yourself, or around people that are not doing something that you need to do, like, running or cold showers or whatever. It's easy to, you know, let your conviction waver there, and your resolve can definitely struggle. I'll say that as you get more into it, it's not a big deal. Like nowadays, I'm off the stimulants for this year, and the only times when I want a stimulant is when somebody's doing them. Right? I never am sitting here on my computer and I'm like, oh man, I really wish I had a coffee. But if I'm at church and they got the coffee in the morning and we're setting up and, putting the chairs out and everything, and then somebody's drinking, it's like, oh man, that'd be nice. Or Taya gets a coffee or whatever. Like, yeah, it could be cool. But I would say that it definitely gets easier the more that you kind of get in that zone. After the cold showers, I got to running. That was 2024. I ran a mile every day. And that one was the hardest one probably that I've done, but it became not that bad. It was hard in different ways. At the beginning it was hard because running a mile was hard, right? I had never ran a full mile before January 1st, 2024. Like when we ran them in gym class or whatever, I'd run really fast and then I'd walk because I'd have to catch my breath, and then I'd run, and then I never realized that you could kind of like jog. Like, if you run slower, you won't have to take a break. I figured that, you've just got some stamina for running. If you're not walking, you're running. And you've only got however much stamina for that, so you might as well run as fast as you can before you get tired, was my idea. And then once I started realizing, I was like, wait, you can just slow down and it'll actually be easier to control. Then I started doing that, and I ran every mile in 2024. So I'd say that was definitely a good starting point, because Taya actually did that with me at the end, like the last half or something. She ran with me every day. And that was for her super, super impactful in her like discipline as well, and like self-confidence and stuff like this. I would super recommend, if you're going to do a challenge, running a mile every day, because now, I mean, it's going to be different for different people, but for me, I really hated it. And also it's something doable and it doesn't take a long time. Right? These are really, because people, you say, oh, I'm gonna start going to the gym, but you go to the gym, you got to get up, you got to get ready, put on your clothes, do whatever. If you're taking pre-workout, drive to the gym, get in there, warm up, lift or run or do whatever you're doing. Like, it's a really big time commitment. Whereas running, it was, I'm gonna walk out my door and in 10 minutes I'll be walking back in my door. Like, there was never an excuse not to. I mean, there was, like, I remember one day Taya gave me the death plague in like May or something, or April. And I remember, like, I had just been throwing up all day, and I timed it. I was like, okay, if when I throw up, I've got about 30 minutes until I need to throw up again. So I had yacked 5 times, and I said, on 6, I am gonna get up and go run. So I got my shoes on, whatever, and I waited till I had to yak. I yacked my 6th, got up and ran, and as soon as I got back inside, I yacked my 7th. But that's doable, right? You can if you're committed to it and your challenge is short enough in time and doable enough to where it's mentally difficult but not like difficult to plan out and stuff like this. That's super impactful because you could still do it. There's never an excuse not to. Right? And if it was raining, you go to the treadmill or do whatever. There's, I think running is a super, super good one to start out with. But the running, I wanted to hit a 6-minute mile, and I started around 8, I think. And then by March, I had hit my 6-minute mile. I got 5:59. And so after I did that, I was kind of like, well, I don't really, there's nothing for me to be doing anymore. So I just started being, doing like 8-minute, 9-minute, whatever. And then I started running with Taya, and it just got to be kind of boring. And now I've been running, like this year, I've not been running a mile every day, but I've been, just yesterday I did like 3.7 or 3.6 or something. I've been doing around 3 to 4, like, however often. And back in April, we just did that challenge, from our buddies back in Virginia, we were seeing who could run the most. And now Ian's going to be doing a lemonade stand for like 5 hours. But that was also, getting into the running. I think that running became fun. And so now I like it. Now I do it like recreationally instead of just like out of this chore or obligation or whatever. And it's really great for you. Like you feel so much better. Running, I definitely recommend. But I think that that was probably the hardest. Well, I haven't finished this year, but getting I think over the total, at the end, it became pretty easy. It was just kind of boring. Whereas now this year we get to the real big guy. No stimulants. No stimulants had a very interesting difficulty curve, right? Because I was telling people, I was like, oh, I'm definitely chemically addicted to stimulants. But because I'm not using them, like this is what I was talking about with the weed thing. If anything can be addictive if you're using it to cope with something, and anything can be not addictive if you just kind of use it for fun, right? And so was I chemically addicted to stimulants? For sure. But I went, like I was telling people that I was talking to, I was, oh, the first 3 weeks in January. After that, it's just whatever. It doesn't matter. Like any challenge you do, after the first 3 weeks, you're done. And I really believed that because after 3 weeks, running got easier, cold showers got easier, whatever. That's not necessarily true. For the stimulants, this was a very, very strange difficulty curve because my first 2 days, man, January 1st and January 2nd, my mouth was watering. Like I couldn't get to sleep with how much saliva I had. I don't know why, but I've looked it up and that'll happen. Then, the rest of after like January 3rd, I was not stressing. January 3rd, I was fine. And up until, January, whatever, I finished January, I'm cool. I'm not stressing. February, I'm cool. For some reason, March was pretty hard. And it wasn't hard like in the sense of I thought that I was gonna fail. Like I'm not gonna fail. But it was hard with the fact that like I didn't like I was like unhappy doing the challenge. I was like, man, I wish I wasn't doing this. Because I think that I was really around, like I'd go to church and people are drinking coffee. I'd see Taya drinking coffee. She'd be making her coffee. NJB's popping a Zen. Oh, Juju, like people that I'm around have stimulants, and I'm like, oh man, wouldn't that be nice? And I think in January, I was coming off the high of like, January, you're kind of strong, right? Because you're still in this mindset of like you're conquering something. It's not like whittling down your resolve anymore. Like you're right out the gate. February, I started doing jujitsu, and that was kind of all I was thinking about. So I didn't really have time to be thinking about stimulants because I was just thinking about jujitsu. But then in March, like I kind of I was getting to the point where I want to do jujitsu like really long term, and I have this issue. I get super obsessed with stuff, and like that's all I think about, and then I kind of let it die. And I was like, no, I don't want jujitsu to die. So now I don't watch any jujitsu YouTube videos. I don't think about like I just do it while I'm there for like an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever, and then that's it. And that's actually been super because now I'm having like so much fun. I'm about to do my first tournament probably in July. It's looking like. Um, it's been a great time, and that has definitely helped. Like I've been hobby maxing this semester since January, and having that hobby maxing has really gotten my mind off the stimulants because you're not as focused on like you wish you could. The easiest stimulant to give up was pre-workout. Pre-workout was no issue. I went and bench 315 for the first time. I squat. No, I didn't. I didn't hit a squat PR. But I benched 315 for the first time, like 2 weeks or 3 weeks after. And I think a big thing was that I was sleeping better because no stimulants, like, you're not supposed to take the stimulants in the afternoon, but then I end up doing it anyway, and then I sleep worse, right? So the better sleep, I think, was counteracting the pre workout or the lack of pre workout. And so I was still smashing it in the gym. Like, I've not had any physical output issues off the no caffeine. And I think I'll probably, like, I'm not going to continue no stimulants after this year, but I'm considering not doing pre-workout because like really I don't feel any difference nowadays like in my exercise from when I was taking pre-workout. Like I'm, just as locked in, I'm just as focused and pushing myself. Like I don't really think it's a big deal to not have the pre-workout. It is kind of fun. Like I'll definitely do pre-workout, but I don't know if I'm going to be doing it consistently. Maybe I'll just get a tub for the beginning of the year and then, maybe not afterwards. But after March, I say all that to say, after March, it got much, much easier. Like April was pretty easy. Now that I'm in May, dude, like I'm not even thinking, like even my buddies pull out a Zyn or Taya pulls out a coffee. She'd be making matcha or, whatever. And I could not care less. Like there are actively days where like, dude, the sun is shining and the weather is nice and I'm on my way to jujitsu or I'm on my way to play basketball or I'm on a run outside and I'm like, it is just so freeing not needing to rely on anything else, right? The more that you conquer these like issues that you have and the more that you beat yourself up in like a self-discipline sense, like the more you make yourself, the more you submit to yourself and the more you're able to control yourself, the life is so much better, dude. Like the sun shines brighter, the weather is nicer, the wind feels better, music sounds better. Life is great, dude. So that brings me to next year, or the end of this year. I don't think I'm gonna have much issue. The no stimulants has been pretty manageable since March was not as nice, but April was pretty forgiving, and it's just gonna keep doing well. Now next year, I've got a couple ideas that I've been workshopping. The first idea was from like last year, and I was thinking about what if I did the whole year left-handed. And that could be cool, but the issue is that I write a lot, especially like when I'm teaching and stuff. I don't want to have to deal with doing the left-handed stuff. I've also thought about doing things that are like more running related things, because when I was running, right, the idea of running is that it's something that's difficult and it's something that I've been traditionally bad at. I've always like, as I've been growing up, I've really prided myself on being able to learn things quickly. And I feel like I can improve at stuff quickly. And there's a handful of things that I've always really sucked at. Like not, like, oh, I suck because I never tried. No, like I really just, I wasn't, it's not that I wasn't a natural, but I was actively not a natural. Like I'm unnaturally bad at running. So I ran and now I like running. I've always been unnaturally bad at reading. I really am a slow reader. I really take my time because I get in my head and it really bothers me if I don't read every single word and listen to my inner voice say every single word. So I have to do that, and like I'll start reading, and also drawing is a second one. I've been really bad at like drawing is probably the thing that I've been most unnaturally bad at my whole life. So I would be really interested, maybe like make a YouTube video every day of me drawing or draw for 30 minutes. That's the thing is like, I don't know what a daily challenge would be with these, reading or drawing, how I would quantify that. Because another thing with challenges is that they should be daily and they should be nonstop, right? If you're going to say, oh, I'm going to start going to the gym 3 days a week, that's cool or whatever. Like, don't get me wrong. But when it's 3 days a week, if you're not saying Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're saying 3 days a week. Well, that 3 days, well, today's Monday, but I didn't sleep as well last night and I'm kind of tired. I'm busy. I've got a lot of stuff going on, but maybe I'll just do Tuesday. And then it's so easy. I mean, within a month, you're going to be doing 1 day a week or none. So it's super important to be doing something every single day or not doing something every single, the stopping challenges are a lot more simple to program than the starting challenges, right? But I would say that drawing and reading are probably my two next up. I don't know how I'll do that. But I hope that you all enjoyed my video. I hope that you got something from it. Please comment if you have any ideas on anything like that, and I will see you guys later.